money issue. The present budget for the National Bison Range is approximately $1.2 million. If the tribe assumes management of the Bison Range, they will continue to receive that same budget. The tribe can use a portion of that budget as matching funds to request additional matching funds from the federal government. Conceivably, they could use $200,000 of that budget to request an additional $200,000 from the federal government for matching funds and use those for other projects other than the National Bison Range. Under the present management, the Fish and Wildlife Service has to return any excess funds they have at the end of the fiscal year. Under the tribal management,
Diana Senpoxy, Cody, Confederate Salish, Kuki tribal member, Salish, and mother of 7, graduate of the University of Montana. Kwee kwai, hanem, kokashitu, buffalo, buffalo, my friend, my friend. Kwee kwai, Isalah, Isalah. Buffalo, buffalo, will you help me? Will you help me? Lynn, Lesh, Messia, all of you are my friends and many and my relatives. Everyone has to work together in this, as our buffalo have been slaughtered to near extinction. But these buffalo ranges are a good thing, and we also have other animals in there too, our deer, our elk, antelope, on and on. The list is endless. Work with us. The Creator gave us a beautiful animal for all of us to enjoy, to protect, and not to fight over. This is not the only place that there could be a bison range. You could set something over there and start another one, or we could have one over here. We can all manage it together. I view the bison range in Moise as a sacred place. These majestic animals are safe there. And you know, I might be naive, but I already thought I managed it. I did, and I'm a tribal member. Along with everybody, we all manage it. When we go there, we don't litter, we don't jeer at the animals, we love them, we protect them. It's an old story that we Indian people we give. The more we can give, the more we'll receive. And I think we've already gave enough. It's about time we got a little bit back. So share now. It's time to help as working together as citizens of this great land. When we all work together, we learn from one another, and we all owe it to the bison to work together around them so they don't have to be upset anymore. Harmony works better than disharmony, and happiness and respect is better than getting all mad and disgruntled. And I have a daughter out there, she's 11. She says, the tribe should be able to have the bison range because it is our reservation. It was where our ancestors roamed, and long ago, that's where they were. And we would like it if we would be able to have it back, if it's okay with you, and we can work together. Shangwai, Lemna, Shangwai.
My name is Keith Golfer. I live in Florence, and I'm opposed to the process. When I first heard about this proposal, I thought it made sense. The lands are adjacent to the tribal lands, and the tribe has a long history and heritage with the buffalo. But the closer I looked at this issue, it became apparent that I believe that many people would feel the same way as I do when they look closer to this issue, that they should feel like they should have a say in this and not be decided for them. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina Kraft, and I'm considering sanitation for the meeting.
We can't hear you.
I believe that the Bison Ranch should be managed by the Salish and Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. It is located on the land set aside for us. We as first inhabitants of this land used to manage the buffalo, and they roam free like us. They provided food and shelter for our people among other things. The buffalo we fly is part of our own culture. We dance. When we dance in a circle and honor life. The buffalo is part of our own life and neighborhood.
I'm Fred Rockwell from St. Ignatius. I'd like to know why we have troops all over the world fighting for democracy. Yet our government is trying to take it away from us here and give it to a government that we have no voice and no vote in. I think the tribe is always complaining about they don't have enough voice and vote in our government, but we have none in theirs. And I don't think this is right. If we have a voice in their government, then maybe we could go ahead with this Bison Ranch. But as they have no voice in their government, we should give it to Canada, Mexico, Japan, somebody else. Let them run it. It makes just that much sense. I think the tribe has more on their plate than they can handle now. They can't take care of the weeds that they've got. They can't take care of the mess they've got. Brought up about Dixie Coast Yard. That's a disaster as far as I'm concerned. If it was run so good, why isn't it operating today? There are several post outfits in this valley that are making posts. Why aren't they running theirs? How about the pipeline? They shut that down. That was free money coming in, easy money. But they have to shut that down. Why? Also, we have no burn season, but the tribe has burn season of their own during our no burn season, and let a non-tribal member burn at that time. I wasn't able to, but somebody else was. Thank you.
My name is David Rockwell, and I'm no relation to Fred. I'm opposite side of the issue from Fred, and I feel pretty strongly. We live on a reservation, Fred, and that's why there's two different governments.
Fine.
I was on the board of Mission Valley Power for a number of years, and that utility is one of the best run utilities in the Pacific Northwest. We work with a lot of different managers from around the Northwest, and any one of those managers that you ask will tell you that. Talk to Western Montana G&T, they'll agree with you. Got one of the lowest rates of any utility in the Pacific Northwest. Our customer satisfaction is extremely high. There was just a survey done last year, polled residents of Lake County, listed out 28 different services that are provided in the county. Mission Valley Power ranked number 1. So it's a really well-run utility. It's well respected by the customers. We have customers from Flathead Electric wanting to come down and join Mission Valley Power. We have customers from Missoula Electric wanting to join Mission Valley Power. It's run by the tribes. It was run by the federal government, by the Department of Interior. When the tribes took it over, it was a mess.
like singing to the choir, or maybe a portion of the choir. I can't sing as well as this young lady, a couple people back. The only song I know is God Bless America. And related to that, it has nothing to do with tribes. You know, it was just 100 years ago that this whole thing was started. 100 years ago, local interests were destroying our special places. 100 years ago. And Theodore Roosevelt stepped up and said, no more. We're going to protect them. And he created the National Wildlife Federation and the national parks and many of the national forests. And guess what? 100 years later, I benefited, my generation's benefited, and God willing in the future, my children's generation will benefit from that management. Well, what's different? Why is this a threat to us? Local versus national. Now, someone said earlier that local is better, and it is. However, local management with local representatives is not better. They change rapidly, their viewpoints change rapidly, even the politicians in Missoula change rapidly, and I dislike some of the things they do, and you do too. There's no checks and balances related to the national public. The Salish community may be protected, we may be protected, but the national public is not protected. We have got to have a system of checks and balances, and that's what this federal system has done for us. This may work and it may not, but if it doesn't and it starts to erode, that last 100 years is going to be lost. Thank you.
I was absolutely amazed at misrepresentation of facts. People were talking innuendo, no
you. I heard a documentary sometime back on the slaughter of buffalo, and out of Montana, I believe the year was 1847, won't quote me on that, they sold 3,800,000 buffalo hides just out of the state of Montana. And they said some of the Indian hunters were by far the most productive. And they're blaming us for killing all the buffalo. And the reason this reservation looks so much better than most of the other reservations that you've seen is because on this reservation there are very large, actually more people that own private land that farm and have their farms than the Indians do. Look at most of their farms and see how nice and neat they are. The weeds are grown, the old cars laying around the yard, the old equipment, the houses were blown down. And the reason this reservation is as good as it does is because we're here, not because of their efforts.
My name is Edith Sweeney. I want to set the facts straight. Dolores Mick wrote a letter that this lady kindly read. You were talking about my mother, my father, my brother, and my 2 sisters. My parents bought 160 acres, and they leased that tribe, or that land, to the tribe for $1 a year, and we raised elk on that small piece of land. It wasn't the tribes. Don't blame the tribes for what we did. And we weren't sitting in a bar getting drunk trying to decide what we should do with some elk that got disease from, as my father said, we bought cows from a white man. The reason Dolores Mick didn't read that letter is because it's a damn lie. She lied. I lived there. I got up every morning and we took care of the elk and we took care of the birds. We turned them loose. We did whatever we had to do. But we loved those animals. We had birds that were stolen from our ranch. You talk about accountability. Don't blame the tribe for what we did. You know, they said that this is going to go back to the president, the Congress. You know what I have to say to them? Is, you know, Mr. President, these people that do not respect what little we have left, buy them out, get them off our land. You know, when I go to the state of Washington, I don't vote for any of their congressmen. I don't have any say in their state elections. I don't have any say in their city or school elections. But you know, when I go there, I abide by their laws. Because you know why? Because it's the right thing to do. You want to live in our homeland? Then by God, show us some respect. We have the people that are capable of managing that bison range. We have people that are capable of managing the wildlife refuges. We've gone to school. I've got people in my family that are juris doctorates, masters, have bachelor's degrees, and we got them all right here from this institution right downtown. We are all perfectly capable of managing what little we have left. Give us the opportunity to do so. You know, we're not going to take anybody's jobs away. You hear it time and time again. This is like a turnkey operation. All we got to do is just walk in and we're just going to oversee it. Why can't people understand that? But no, because it's the tribe, you automatically think that we're out to get you and what little we have left.
I'm not sure if you can hear this mic. Is it all right out there?
Talk a little louder.
My name is Skip Palmer. I'm from Charlotte, Montana. And referring to the lady who's just up here, I've always decide what is inherently federal. That should be in black and white, on the line. Everything should be laid out, and then the Interior Department should turn around and show it to the tribes and say, this is the deal. Do you want it or not? But to sit down and negotiate what is inherently federal is circumventing the process, and that's what all of these people are concerned about tonight, is it's not being done fairly. It's not being done fairly. As far as Fish and Wildlife Service policy, Fish and Wildlife Service policy was not put in place because of tribes. Fish and Wildlife Service policy should not be changed because of tribes. Policy was put there to protect the animals on earth. And inherent federal responsibilities weren't put in place because of tribes, and they should not be changed because of tribes. I just believe that the negotiations are going way too fast. They've got a deadline for June 30th to finalize this thing. And we've got a room full of people like this tonight. Half of them are saying you owe it to us. The other half are saying we don't want to give it to you. We've got a long ways to go between the two groups before this thing's signed, and we're only 30 days away. I suggest everybody back off, the federal government back off, the tribes back off, and go about this right. Because this isn't just the Bison Range, and it's not just this Indian tribe. This is nationwide. This is wildlife managers nationwide. This is parks nationwide. Whatever Mr. Hoffman and this tribe comes up with on their negotiations is going to set precedents for the rest of it. Rather, people say so or not. That's exactly what's going to happen. So it shouldn't be done in the next 30 days. Thank you.
My name is Sharon Jarlin. I'm an attorney. I work out of St. Ignatius, Montana. I've been out of law school for about 7 years. I'm a member of the Assiniboine tribe, and I've had the pleasure of living on the Flathead Reservation for approximately 15 years. I was able to go and listen in Ronan and again tonight. And one thing that's very apparent is that we are in a very unique situation. I think, with all due respect, Reverend, I do resent the fact that as a citizen, an American citizen, a tax-paying citizen, a citizen within the exterior boundaries of the Flathead Reservation, that there were some just blatant inaccuracies of what the law is. I want to give you an example. In the slideshow that we were presented with at the beginning, we were told that if the tribe took over management, that there'd be a loss of equal opportunity in hiring, and thus that was racial discrimination. I've had the pleasure of researching this actually for tribes and for some of my clients as to what is racial discrimination. And I think that we really need to, if some of the points that have been made tonight or in Ronan concern people, I really, really encourage you to research some of the facts. And then as people come up, whether it be a reverend or others in your community come up and want to quote the law to you, I really encourage you to seek adequate legal advice. It's really clear in the United States Supreme Court that any type of Indian preference in hiring is legal. Okay, now I want to be really clear about that. I think before Dan Decker was rudely interrupted, that was one of the points he was trying to make, is look, when you look at the big picture and $1.2 million management, I haven't heard in all of the examples I've been listening and trying to understand what is the problem here, what is the problem with the tribe management. I have heard examples of one disgruntled employee, a lumber operation that had some questionable facts. I was a former prosecutor, and I find it very surprising that the tribal police investigated anything, that absolutely nothing was done. That
nobody shot a moose pursuant to their treaty rights, and that taxpayers are opposed to this. I urge a support for the CSKT management of the National Bison Range, and just encourage everybody to do your adequate research with the facts and the law. Thank you.
I'm going to watch my watch so I can make sure I cover the important points. My name is Ruth Quickwasu. I'm a lifelong resident of the Flathead Reservation. I have a degree in political science from the University of Montana. I spent 16 years as a human resource specialist for my tribe. And for the last 3 years, I've worked in self-governance. If there is one thing I know about employment, I know about human resource management, and I know about federal law and federal employees and federal agencies. I will put to you that I really wished I would have stayed with the Forest Service or the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and at some point the tribe would have took over my program and brought me on. Because those former federal employees in my tribe holding tribal jobs have the best darn deal of anybody I know. And I will name the names of some of them for you local people to ask, if you would care to do that. Since 1805, you all know, 200 years since Lewis and Clark, our tribe has befriended the non-Indian over and over again. We boasted that we have never gone to war or killed white people. We refused to aid our own allied tribes, the Nimiipuu, the Nez when they were at war in 1877, because Charlo would not harm white people in the Bitterroot, because he was still awaiting the government's promise to allow him to stay there. And we all know what happened with that. He was removed in 1891. He and 200 of his band, one of them, my great-grandmother. Am I bitter? Absolutely not. I'm born Indian, I live Indian, I am Indian forever, but you know what? I got a white man's education, and I'm ahead of every single one of you non-Indians because of that. You're not educated in my world, you don't understand how I feel, but I can move quite well in yours. I understand and respect the loyalty and dedication of the Fish and Wildlife Service employees and concern for their jobs, as we all do. I've worked since I was 16 years old. I know how important it is to work. And I assure you, the tribe's motive to take over the bison range is not to make any money. Because if the Fed is making money on it now, that would be a huge surprise to me. Someone's comment about how much land the tribes own and private lands are worth. 1.2 million acres, 60% is in tribal ownership, therefore it's mathematically impossible to say non-Indian owned land is in better shape than tribal. Okay, thank you very much.
My name is John Grant. I live near Charlotte, Montana. My background, my education, the volunteer organizations to which I belong, and the way I make a living are all directly created to land and the God's creatures that inhabit it. For almost 14 years, I've lived in the Mission Valley, a splendid location for any lover of the wild outdoors. In my employment as wildlife habitat manager for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks at Night, and serving on the Wheat Board for Lake County as a technical advisor on the Flathead Reservation Fish and Wildlife Board since its creation in 1990, I've had the pleasure of working with the competent staff of both the Confederate Salish and Kootenai tribes and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Fine people who are dedicated to conserving wildlife and other natural resources are employed by both governments. The missions and goals of the Wildlife and Land Conservation programs of these two respective governments have strengths and weaknesses, but they have complemented one another over time and continue to do so. I think that the U.S. government will be making a terrible mistake by compacting the management of our national bison range to the tribes, not because the tribes are managing improperly, but by phasing out federal presence in wildlife management efforts in the Mission Valley. Over time, natural resource protection and the quality of life of the entire community will suffer because the expertise in noxious weed management and habitat conservation that the Fish and Wildlife Service has been bringing to the table for nearly 100 years will no longer be available to those of us that work to preserve that special place we call home. Perhaps the most troubling to me is that the proposed action could be the tip of the iceberg in dismantling the natural resource conservation legacy that is the heritage of all citizens of this country. Criteria of geographic, historical, and cultural connection for federal programs to revert to tribal management is a sham by the U.S. government. American Indians by definition have geographic and historic connections to the lands of all 50 United States, and the proud tradition of living in harmony with nature is indisputable.
Hi, my name is Jamie Hamel, Vice Chairman of the Confederate Salish and Kootenai Tribes, but I want to clearly say it for the record that I'm not here in an official capacity. I'm here as a resident of the Flat Indian Reservation, and I'm here as a resident of the state of Montana, and I'm here as a resident, I'm a United States citizen, and I want to make that clear. I do also want to say that the tribes agree, though, with a public process, and we feel that public participation is important. We appreciate all of the remarks that have been made, although some of them are very inaccurate. And so I just wanted to state for the record that I want the Department of Interior to look at the whole picture and to please take into consideration not the anti-Indian rhetoric that has been said, but take into consideration the facts. I appreciate those of you that have stood up and spoke the truth, because that's what's important. So I just wanted to say that I am in support of tribal management of the National Bison Range, and I also wanted to say that we're not trying to fix something that was broken. I commend Dave Wiseman and the staff that have been out there, because they have done a beautiful job of keeping the Bison Range beautiful. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Sewell. I'm a University of Montana graduate. I was born and raised in the Deerwood Valley, and I want you people to know that I remember that you had to live there, that I might live there. As far as accountability, I think it's about time the United States was accountable for the treaties that they made with the tribes. This has gone on way too long. We are now going around the world murdering more people, in case you people haven't noticed. Another generation going around the world, killing that we might have more money, more oil. And meanwhile, while you people are arguing about the small stuff going on here in Montana, your country is privatizing much more of your government than you're paying attention to. How about the private prisons? Does anybody here have a problem with the private prisons? There's one in Shelby. Do you know that you're getting inmates from out of state that just 2 years ago, your congressman guaranteed you would not come here? Why are you people not paying attention to the news? That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Jack Renault. I'd just like to make a few comments. The National Wildlife Refuge System is one of the greatest conservation successes in the world, and not just North America. The first refuges, it's a place where you and I can go, any of us can go, enjoy wildlife, scenery, be by ourselves, enjoy solitude, and see a great number and variety of wildlife. The first refuges were established at the beginning of the last century by concerned hunter conservationists when wildlife wildlife population numbers were at their lowest numbers. Each refuge serves as an island where wildlife populations were able to recover and propagate. The national wildlife refuges are not a success because they are owned by, globally managed by private interest groups, companies, individuals all over North America. They're a success because they are managed by trained wildlife professionals who work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. These people, regardless of their sex, color, creed, religion, or beliefs, have an interest in conservation of our natural resources and dedicate their lives to preserving these wildlife populations. And I might add, at a much reduced amount of money than they could make in other professions. It has been said that you can have too much government, and I'd agree with that in many areas, but not when it comes to our natural resources and the National Wildlife Refuge System. Federal land should not be privatized by individuals, local governments, corporations, or tribal governments. What's next? Our national parks, Forest Service, BLM lands.
Hi, my name is Billy Thomas, and I support the tribe taking management over the Bison Range.
I am Emily and I support the travel management of the Bison Range.
I had been asked I had promised a gentleman who is involved with the public employees for environmental responsibility to read a portion of this statement. I must tell you, it is way too long. So I'm going to read one sentence at the front and one sentence at the back. The gentleman who sent this is Gene Hocutt he is the Peer Refuge Keeper, and he addresses this to Dear Secretary Norton. Public employees for environmental responsibility has cause to believe that the Department of Interior has acted contrary to law with regard to its planned action to turn operations and management responsibilities of the National Bison Range and affiliated National Wildlife Refuges to the Confederated Salish Kootenai tribes. Then I'm going to go to the very end. What they take issue with is not who is responsible or who has the ability to do the best job, but the process that is currently underway. And it's a 5-page letter. If you want to read it, I'll give you a copy. This concludes the comments that we've received tonight. I want to respond to a gentleman, I don't remember his name. We did ask Fred Matt to present a lengthy presentation at the beginning. The reason that Bob Larson presented his presentation was that he was at the front of the public statements. I would have loved to have known about that gentleman's PowerPoint, but nobody contacted me. I apologize that this meeting was pulled so hastily together, but as American citizens, all of us, we are all Americans, we are in this together, folks. We need to voice our concerns, our oppositions, and our support for something that will change the absolute nature of the National Refuge System, good or bad. And yes, I am one citizen, but yes, all of you could have a public meeting if you wanted to. And if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have had one. And I want you to know how much I appreciate each and every one of you. You are as important to this process as the President of the United States. And don't ever forget that. You are America. And that's why I called this meeting, along with some other citizens. I was not the only person that called this meeting. And like I said before, we had talked to Mr. Hoffman, and we had asked if we could have it at the end of the summer, and he thought that was a good idea. Your comments tonight are really counting, because the big negotiations are starting June 9th. So with that, I want to thank all of you. And I want to turn this back over to questions and answers. If we can't answer them, we will get the answers. So if we can't, please give us your business card or your name or whatever. Would you like to come up and finish this up?
Some of you picked up some of these white cards that were on the sign-in table. If we don't get to your questions, why you can write your questions out in here, give them to Susan, and I'm not sure how she's going to get the answers back to you, but at least she's going to be willing to try. So with that, let's just open the floor to questions. And Dave, looks like you're kind of alone at the head table, so if you can field them, fine. If you can't, we'll just have to not be able to respond to some of the questions. Keep in mind that some of the principals, Paul Hoffman, Assistant Secretary of the Department of Interior, we're at the policy level. There are a lot of questions about laws, and folks here just are not going to be able to respond to every single one in a totally satisfactory manner, so you'll have to bear with us on that. So, the first question. Come on up.
This may not be relevant to the present issue, but in a tribal election, are only enrolled members eligible to vote? Anybody? Only enrolled members are eligible to vote, is that correct?
No, they have to be residents over the age of 18. They have to be resident criteria on the reservation, so not all tribal members vote in tribal elections.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe you just make your way up towards the microphone. Let's use this, which is most of the people here. If you have questions, just make your way up here and state your question, and we'll see how we can field the answers for you.
My name is Velda Shelby. I am a taxpayer. I live on V-land on the Flathead Reservation. I'd like to know, Mr. Wiseman, what are you afraid of? Why are you trying to incite all this public dissension and people to advocate against tribal support for this proposal? What are you afraid of? What is it that gripes you the most about tribal management? That's what I'd like to know.
I don't think that me or the Fish and Wildlife Service are afraid of the proposal, and we enjoy working with the tribes, and we honestly look for win-win opportunities to work with the tribes. And I don't think that I've been trying to incite anything. It's just going through the process as Congress laid it out, and what's good for the refuge system and good for the tribes.
And so this meeting wasn't staged by you? You were just
I
invited?
had nothing to do with setting up this meeting, organizing this meeting, and I was invited to come.
Okay. That's true.
Yeah, my question, one of my questions is, if the tribe is allowed or given the right, or whatever, however you want to put it, to manage the bison range, is it going to be run as prejudicial
don't think I can answer a lot of your questions. What I would say is the management or administration of the National Wildlife Refuge System and National Wildlife Refuges by the National Wildlife Refuge Administration Act is the responsibility of the Secretary of the Interior through the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Mrs. Renaud, I have a question for Mr. Larson. You earlier stated some statement about when the reservation, when the land for the bison range was purchased out of the reservation.
What's your question?
What of our chiefs offered that land for sale?
I guess I still can't hear you well enough to know.
Which of our chiefs, Salish, Kootenai, or Ponderay, offered you that land, not you, sorry, the government, the 18,000 acres for sale?
Since you directed that at me, I'll take a minute to answer it. There are a lot of things that were not said here tonight. One was, I don't hear anybody saying, and I didn't say, that it was just when the reservation was open to homesteading. And I didn't have any part of that. I wasn't even that old. I may look that old, but I'm not. I wasn't around at that time. But it was congressional action, and they're not always right. And later on, they tried to make up for it with the Claims Commission, and there was a just day in court, and it was settled. But does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't. I guess the point I'm trying to make is the tribes never offered land for sale for the bison range. I'd like to have that indelibly etched in all of your minds. There was never a for sale sign hung on our reservation, and there is documented proof by your white historians of our ancestors going to Washington, D.C. and writing letters and circulating petitions on our reservation in opposition to opening the reservation at all, because our chiefs knew we give an inch, we lose a mile. The Northern Pacific Railroad right-of-way was forced upon us that same way. Record of opposition. Go do the research to the National Archives. Second part, the Indian Claims Commission, the $5+ million was not for the bison range alone. Again, you should do the research, because there are other parcels within the reservation similarly affected that we were due compensation for. And again, people, the tribe is not asking for ownership, so just get off that one right now. Because if we did, we'd go to Congress and say appropriate the money to buy it back and give it to us. That'd be my vote. I know how to write to Congress. I know how to contact them. There was one more question I have for Mr. Wiseman. I saw something on the internet about the National Wildlife Refuge System, that 90% of the land within the refuge system is withdrawn from the public domain. Can you explain what that means?
Public domain land is land that were never patented, never privately owned, and most of that land, as you pointed out, 90%, most of that is in Alaska.
Does that mean that there's really no such thing as public access or use of that land then?
No, most of that land does have public access and use. In fact, with the National Wildlife Refuge System, which is approximately 93 million acres, there are 6 public use priorities. So public use is an integral part of the National Wildlife Refuge System.
Thank you.
Really good question.
Another one?
How are the tribes going to provide better access for visitors?
Tribes have said in their past brochures that
I think that's a very valid question, and I would hope that someone from the tribe would get back with him on it. That has come up, and I think we have to realize what the refuge is meant to be. It is meant to be a quiet place for animals. It's not meant to be a tourist attraction. That's just my opinion, but I know that it's the opinion of a lot of wildlife biologists, and I'm married to one.
Nobody answered my question.
Would you answer him? This lady's the one with the beautiful voice, I think. You're the one with the beautiful voice.
All right, let's just say I was running the Bison range, and you want the better access would be that we would have a bus that would drive you around, and you wouldn't have to waste your car gas to go around there because we'd have a bus. And you would also be able to enjoy a meal there, and you would be able to see more videos of the animals, and maybe some education on why we are preserving these animals. This is what I would do if I was, and I'm a tribal member, and I'm also a citizen, and everything, as anything, can always go for some little bit of improvement. That's how we evolve into making things better. And that's what it would be like.
Dave, as manager of Bison Range, could you give us some idea on how you could improve visitor access above and beyond what's there now?
And talk really loud.
I certainly couldn't get into any specifics. Fish and Wildlife Service, which that has priority public uses, all public uses on any national wildlife refuge have to be compatible with the purposes of the refuge. And to determine that, we would need to go through a planning process. The process that's set forth currently is the conservation planning process, and that would need to be gone through for the Bison Range. And you're right, there are always opportunities for improvement. And going through that planning process, the Fish and Wildlife Service invites all public input, with ideas to improve things and change things if need be to make them better, and still maintain our wildlife first priority.
My question relates to civil service employees. Where, if it is managed by the tribe, how would would they continue to go up through the ranks of the Fish and Wildlife Service, or would there be another hiring system?
I just want to state for the record, again, like I stated in my comment, the tribes are not here in an official capacity, and some of these questions are difficult to answer because the process is a negotiation process, that it is just the beginning. Some of these answers we don't know. They have to be negotiated in the annual funding compact that we're discussing. I know Dave can answer some of these questions as well as we can't. And so I just want it made clear that we will encourage the public process, but some of these questions cannot be answered at this time. And I just, again, want to state that we're not here in official capacity, and I apologize, and we will seek the answers, but at this point in time, some of these questions just can't be answered.
Jamie's correct. There are multiple possibilities as far as personnel, and right now it would be impossible to answer.
My question, all the comments here tonight seem to be on why we should not let the tribe take over management of the Bison Range. My question is, why should we let them take over the management? Is there a problem there? Why should we let the tribe? Does anybody know why we should let the tribe take over the management of those 3 refuges?
Speak. No, she's in the back.
Why we should let the tribes manage the bison, on the bison ranges, because it's right there on our reservation. And we are really close to the bison. We dance. When we dance at a powwow, we dance to honor our spiritual helpers. The bison is one. We don't worship the bison like a god, but we know that the bison was given to us by the Creator, as our ancestors used to get everything from the buffalo: food, shelter, clothing, and even utensils. And this animal is sacred to our people, and that is one good reason why we should be managing our sacred bison. It's not only sacred to us, but it's sacred to everyone that lives here in this United States. Just like cattle, we want to take care of them too. We want to take care of everything like that. So that's why, Lebanon, thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. As some of the speakers got up and spoke too, and I know that some of the responses were to get the facts. I would hope that you would look into the reality of the Indian Self-Determination Act, not just a paragraph that is put up on a screen about what the whole Indian Self-Determination Act is about, because it goes deeper than just a paragraph that's on there that keeps being repeated over and over. The tribe is just asking to be afforded something that is in law, that is in the law. And we meet the cultural, geographical, that we meet the requirements that are in the law.
We actually have a few more minutes left. If there's any more questions, that would be great. Otherwise, we can adjourn the meeting. I will once again emphasize to you that if you would like to help out to defray the cost for this meeting hall, the meeting hall was $110. We had to hire the police. That was $270. And we also had to pay for the Federal Express that's going to be used. Actually, my business is going to pay for the FedEx, but if anybody wants to help out with that, each packet is probably going to be about $25 to $30 per packet to them. So I wouldn't mind at all if you would like to help out making a donation. But you don't have to. Are there any further questions or comments? Yes.
I'd like to, can you hear me there? I'd like to quote Ron Sweeney, former chairwoman of the Confederate School Tribe. In May 14, 1995, she spoke about the Bison Range and quote, "We feel we'd be able to make a case to the Congress to get more money." And I think this is the whole issue of why they want to manage the Bison Range.
Is that it? Thank you. Adjourn the meeting.
glad she said that we had offered for at the same
One of the squawks, you know, you really hit something.
Oh, you hit a lot of buttons, but I didn't know that I would be hit back like that. Well,
They have to
the Bible says you don't Hey, I want to encourage you. I didn't expect some of the things that I heard tonight. I think people, if you don't have plans for the argument, at the argument at the church, when you come up with yeah. So, and we said I was just confusing and my sermons are boring. He's never heard one. But I appreciate your today. One of our teachers, Pine Haven, did all those visits for me this morning. Between 8:30 and noon, I took my copy of all